Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Constitutional Considerations here on Tactical Review. I'm being joined once again by Elias of the Liberty Review podcast. Welcome and good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And so, as you folks at home can see by the title, wait, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Number one, I want to say hi to the guys who are already in chat. We got DB&D Farms. We got Brownies, Hunts for Life. We're going to have more people joining in. But Elias, do you know what 1 week hence is?
Aren't you giving away something like AK-47s and howitzers?
I wish. If I was in a position to give away AK-47s and howitzers, I would like to think that I would. I maybe wouldn't be that altruistic, but I would love to. But I am, in fact, on next Wednesday's live stream, God willing and the creek don't rise, we will be drawing our 4 winners live on the show. So if you are not signed up yet, link down below in the description. Head over to the 500 subscriber giveaway and get signed up, because as it sits right now, those who have signed up have a 1 in 2 chance to win. So maybe they don't want you to sign up, but I'd like more people to have a shot at this. So remember, right click and open in new tab, or I'm not sure how you accomplish that on a mobile device. Anyway, so yeah. Yes, Brownies, my daughter's cat has decided that she wants to be part of the live stream. So we may have a feral cat joining in on occasion. Ivory Fang, welcome. And yeah, I'm just really excited to run tonight's show. I think that since mankind has been around, there have been, what's the word I want to use? Mandates isn't the right word. Edicts isn't the right word. Anyway, everybody has had strongly held beliefs and has wanted other people to adhere to those beliefs. And in that same amount of time, there have been people who say one thing and do another. Basically, I'm saying for all of human history, I think that there have been hypocrites. What do you think, Elias?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm guilty. As a matter of fact, I have an upcoming video, and the contents of this package that I bought are something that I have told you guys all not to buy. A little bit of a teaser there. Obviously, we'll go into that more in the video. But I think it's fair to say that we all have a bit of a slant towards good for me, but not for thee, and so on and so forth. But I'd also say that part of being a good member of society, a contributing, a growing individual, would be to attempt to limit that in our lives. You know, maybe not. Maybe a society of hypocrites is exactly what we need. I'm sure it's what we deserve, but I think that we would all like to have it said of us that we practice what we preach. Warsaw Patriot, hey, how you doing? And Vanessa's in the chat. Welcome, welcome. So, why now? Obviously, once again, hypocrisy is nothing new, but over the last few days, it's just kind of been weighing on me how prevalent it has been so recently. And this past weekend, well, okay, if you've been out of the loop, we're going to try to keep this little anonymous. Most of you guys should know what we're talking about. Obviously, here recently, there's been a bit of, well, mostly peaceful protests. And, but a few weeks back in a place that we're going to call K-Town, a fella who we're going to call Mr. B found himself in a position where he was resisting arrest, had threatened violence on the arresting officers, and right, wrong, or otherwise, found himself shot, which led to further, mostly peaceful protests, until a young man that we're going to call Mr. R found himself in a position where, whether he should have been there or not, he was in fear for his life and committed an act of self-defense. Presumably, allegedly. I think that gives me all of the anonymity and legal wherewithal. Anyway, so obviously there's been debate both directions. Was it self-defense? Was it not self-defense? Did Mr. R have any right to be there? Should he have not been there? Etc., etc. And over the weekend, trolling around on the cesspool that we all know as Facebook, I came across this post shared by one of my Facebook friends who is rather left-leaning. I know you guys can all read for yourselves, but just in case we have anybody who's got the stream running and not at the computer, I'm just going to read it for you guys. This individual says, combat veteran here, just a perspective. If you arrive armed to a place where violence is happening, prepared for violence, and engage in violence, there is no self-defense. You are, in fact, a willing combatant. If you do this without being sanctioned by a government outside of a combat zone, you are also, in fact, a terrorist. We had another word for armed civilians operating outside the military as well: insurgent. If your recourse to the terrorist is to look up the criminal history of the victims, it is no different than looking up the criminal past of everyone that died on 9/11 in order to justify the hijackers. The kid was illegal all the way around. There's a lot to unpack here, and we'll get to my response in just a moment. Elias, you're a veteran, correct?
Last I checked, yes.
So that makes your opinion worth more than my opinion or the opinions in the comment section?
I mean, I find it fascinating how many veterans think it does.
And that's no disrespect to my veterans in my in my subscribers who might be watching this.
Maybe if I'm speaking on a matter that I'm an authority on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But otherwise, no.
If you're an SME and the reason that you're the subject matter expert is because of your military experience, then by all means. And we've talked about,
but just because this guy's a combat vet doesn't make it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack still in this, but I'm just going to share real quickly. My response was, so are we applying the same logic to both sides? Protesters who are going to locations where violence is being organized and are carrying firearms and firebombs also, then terrorists? Oh, I did not phrase that right. Are rioters who are going to these places also terrorists? That's how we're going to say it. And since I saw this post, I just keep coming back in my mind to all of the various areas, especially in recent memory and leading up. We're in a super societally and politically charged time right now. Every election year is anyway, and it seems like every election more so than the last. But even in the Facebook post originally, this individual calls out, in this case, people who are backing Mr. R, saying it was self-defense, for looking up the criminal history of the aggressors slash victims slash whatever they legally end up defined as. And yet, the very first thing that those against the actions of Mr. R did, once more evidence started coming out that seems to corroborate the fact that it is self-defense, the first thing they did is went and dug up a video where Mr. R was in a stupid teenage fight, and they started digging up his past. You know, oh, he's a thin blue liner, etc., etc., etc. It's just been bothering me. Anyway, going down through here, nothing good about the majority of BLM. I'm not going to make any official statement except to say that the founders are in fact Marxist and founded the organization in their own words to disrupt the nuclear families of the United States and promote Marxism. So, yeah. Brownies, Schrodinger's Amazon package. Yeah, I need to actually get on some filming and editing, and then you guys can see what's in the box. It's not Michelle Pfeiffer's head. Wait, no. It was Gwyneth Paltrow's head, wasn't it? I messed up my own movie references. Warsaw, just because I'm trying not to trigger algorithms, again, channels have gotten channel strikes over this particular subject. I tend to lean towards your side from what I've seen. I'm trying to be one of those POS centrists once again. But I don't disagree with what you're saying there. Randall, howdy. Warsaw, I'm not gonna blame you for staying off Patreon. No, Facebook. It's definitely a cesspool, and definitely pro-state, left-leaning. They unpublished Mr. Guns and Gears page again. He was able to get that restored through the course of the day, but it's only a matter of time before pro-gun, pro-constitution, it will just be completely unwelcome on Facebook. And honestly, I'm kind of awaiting the day on YouTube as well.
It'll be all social media.
Absolutely.
And then Google will eventually scrub it from theirs.
Oh, yeah. So, anyhow, so this is just one example of the hypocrisy we're seeing. In this case, it's very honestly the hypocrisy of the left. And we've got other examples. You guys may have seen recently in the news that Nancy Pelosi was blasted for going and getting her hair did she went and met with her stylist at a salon that's closed by order of law. It's non-essential. And there's been a lot of back and forth on it. She said she was set up because, there's been security camera footage leaked. And so she's saying she was set up by the owner of the salon, and Trump got on her because she wasn't wearing a mask, and there's just a whole lot of back and forth on this. But I want to break down the salient points that I see. First off, let's cover the mask situation on this. I fully believe that it should be up to the discretion of the would-be wearer of the mask. All right? Even if it's a fantastic idea. I'm not making any comment on the medical validity of wearing a mask in this current pandemic situation. But let's be honest here. If you don't want to get something that doesn't wash off, and you don't want to have kids you weren't planning on, but you want to have a physical relationship with a member of the opposite sex, a condom is a fantastic idea. And yet, nobody mandates that for interpersonal relationships. And I apologize for Elias disappearing. OBS has just been wonderful this evening, so if you'll give me a moment, we will get Elias back on the screen. So anyway, I fully believe it's one of those situations that should be left up to the discretion of the individual, and there are people who would vehemently disagree. Here's the problem with Ms. Pelosi not wearing a mask in this situation. Back on July 29th, she, as Speaker of the House, made it mandatory that any individual on the House floor wear a mask. Which is where it brings it into the situation of good for me, but not for thee. Sorry guys, I can only do one thing at once, and I'm desperately trying to get Elias back on the screen for you guys. There we go. Yeah, so there's that with the masks. Again, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. You do you, okay? If you are running the risk of getting a ticket or a fine or something for it, still, you do you. And then we got the situation where even though salons are closed down, according to my understanding, okay, Elias, if you have information that I am mistaken on, absolutely jump in and correct me here. But as far as I can tell, salons have been closed for the last 6 months in California by order of the governor. Okay, and that's another situation where people are saying that the hypocrisy is the fact that Pelosi has closed it, has ordered salon. No, that's the governor. That's not Pelosi.
Right.
But
she supports.
She supports it. A, and B, a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Ms. Pelosi, you're not above the law in as much as you think you are. Scrolling down through here, I see that the chat's been moving. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Warsaw, mask doesn't work. CDC says so. Again, I'm doing my best to not editorialize. All right, there's a place for editorials, and we're gonna try to deal as much in solid fact as we can here tonight. But anyway, looking at earlier, always been right. Why don't people focus on? Yeah. And the masks that most people are wearing, yeah, they're. I, for one, because Indiana has a mask mandate, I have a thin, breathable neck gaiter. I know that it does absolutely nothing for microbiological transmission. That's not why I'm wearing it. Anyway, yeah. So we've got Speaker Pelosi. Good for thee, but not for me. And then we've got Vice Presidential hopeful Kamala Harris. Am I saying that right? Kamala?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as I know.
Has recently, actually going back to the very first thing we talked about, recently quoted as reaching out to Mr. B, the alleged assaulter who was resisting arrest, etc., etc., reached out to him and shared what an inspiration he is. This is the same Kamala Harris who was a big supporter and potentially claimed victimhood in the Me Too movement. And yet this individual of whom she is so inspired, the reason that he had a warrant out involved sexual assault. The alleged incident that occurred prior to the 911 call on the day in question involved sexual assault.
From another angle too, is that her track record when it comes to police misconduct when she was a DA was not very good.
Oh, absolutely.
So even if you wanted to go with the way the police handled the incident, which I question that part. I'm not questioning whether or not he should have been arrested or what he was doing, but I do question how it was handled. Even if you want to go from that angle, she has not had a good record with that. So for her to act like kind of the savior of the people who have been victimized by police, then she's not doing a very good job with that either.
Absolutely. But that gives us a great segue into Mr. President Trump. Because obviously now he is airing all of the laundry he can about presidential hopeful Joe Biden and the vice presidential candidate. And yet he and Mrs. Trump both donated to Ms. Harris's campaign fund when she was campaigning, I believe it was for re-election as Attorney General. Furthermore,
that doesn't surprise me. I mean,
well, yeah, once again, President Trump, and this is why I was so leery 4 years ago, he's an old school New York Democrat.
Yes.
You know,
very much
so. Some of the things he does, the only reason it's shocking is because of the party under which he was elected to the presidency. And another shining example is, and I quote, or at least I paraphrase, the 8-year assault on your Second Amendment rights is coming to a screeching halt. And then we've got the bump stock ban, which thankfully is finally seeing a day in court, or at least a judicial review. We have, and I quote, take the guns first, due process later. We have suppressors. No, I don't like them. I'm looking at banning them.
Mm-hmm.
So all that to say,
red flag law and the military authorization bill for 2021.
So all that to say, it's easy to pick out the hypocrisy in the crowd that you would consider an opponent.
Yep.
But it's kind of the height of hypocrisy to ignore it in your own party.
Yeah.
And once again, I'd like to try to do better than that in my own life. And I'm going to fail. And there's a level where, I saw Ryan Mitchler said, I think it was last week on a post he shared, that, he's had people say, well, Ryan, you've changed. You're not you're not the guy you used to be. Well, sometimes that's just growth. So I'm not saying that it's wrong to change how you view something. Sometimes in light of new evidence, that changes what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's why sometimes there'll be a hot pressing story that happens within days before we could do a live stream, and we don't touch it, because sometimes it's better to not get that scoop, if you will, but then not have to come back and issue an apology, or potentially have to worry about a libel suit, because I don't have any lawyers on retainer.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn once. You're good.
Well, Warsaw, I think, and I've shared this before, that we have to choose one or the other. You're right that it will be one or the other, but it's a long perpetuated lie that we have to choose one or the other.
Yep.
And, at risk of alienating part of my viewership, and I love you guys, but I don't accept somebody telling me, well, you can choose between one old, rich, white, anti-Second Amendment pervert, or you can choose another old, white, rich, anti-Second Amendment pervert. Is this really the cream of the crop? Are these two guys who look like they could kick the bucket at any moment really the best choices that we have? So, I don't know. But I don't accept the lie that a vote for third-party candidate X is a vote for the opposition.
Yeah. No, that's what they've been wanting everybody to go along with, and everybody has gone along with it.
Yeah.
There's a point where you have to stop going along with it, or you become complicit.
If you look back towards the early elections, and unfortunately, I don't think it lasted very long, but we started out as more of a, if I remember correctly, like a four-party system.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave a balance where it wasn't just this bipartisan mess that we have now.
Right.
So, but the flip side is, let's say that, because I know a lot of people on both sides of the aisle that are completely disillusioned with the candidates that have been put forth. And so let's say that all of those individuals vote third party. And by some miracle, they all land on the same third-party candidate. And so by some miracle, we end up with a third-party president. I realize that I'm talking like...
I don't think that's going to happen, though I don't think it has to. One of the reasons why they've gotten away with doing it for so long is because they know the vast majority of people aren't going to vote for one of the two parties.
Right.
You don't need a third-party candidate necessarily to win to send a message. You need a good showing for the message to come across. But there's also the kind of the ripple effects. part of the reason nobody goes and votes third party is because the thing of you just throw away an opportunity, as Warsaw Patriot was just saying. So people don't, because they don't want to have that idea that I threw away an opportunity. And instead of thinking I voted for what somebody I actually believe in or somebody I actually agree with, if you get enough people that start doing that, what happens then is it's not going to be this election or the next one. It's probably going to be a few down the road. People start to see that, hey, I'm not the only one. If you had 15% of the vote go to third-party candidates, you only have 2 of them that are on almost every state. There's only 2 of them that could actually hit 270. That's the Libertarian and the Green parties. They actually could theoretically hit 270. They're not going to, we know it, but if you had 15-20% of the vote divided between those 2, other people start to see it, and you start getting that effect of, I'm not the only one the next time the elections come up. Or if you get just one of them to win an electoral vote, I mean, they can win Wyoming for all I care. Now their name has to be up on that screen when CNN is blasting it everywhere about who won the states. So I guess when I see it, I don't necessarily see it as we're not going to win the battle, but you might actually have a fighting chance to win the war.
Right.
Because as people start saying, hey, Jorgensen got Wyoming, or, I can't remember who was over on the Green Party, but, they got Vermont somehow. It kind of brings it a little bit more to the forefront, which the media is trying to bury it as much as they can. But at that point, you can't stop it.
Right.
They have to talk about it. When 15-20% of the vote goes to third party, they have to talk about it.
Right. And here's the deal. We're getting in the weeds, but that's okay. It's where the conversation's leading, and that's what we're going to do. The problem is who is on the ballot for November, absolutely. But the problem is that the reason that they're on the ballot is because we didn't do a good enough job in the primaries. We didn't do a good enough job in the years and decades leading up until now. There's a reason that Republicans are feeling unrepresented by the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And Democrats are calling the Republicans Nazis. There's a reason the Democrats are feeling unrepresented by the Democrat Party, and people that are more in the middle and on the right are calling the Democrat Party communists.
Right.
And
that's the thing. If you actually saw the people for the DNC cheated in the 2016 election to get Clinton. It all came out between gerrymandering and other various tactics. The DNC pushed Sanders down. Sanders was very clearly the one a lot of people liked, but they cheated their way to get Clinton the primary nomination. And instead of people going, you know what, no, we're going to go vote for Green Party. We're going to, en masse, go vote for the Green Party. Instead, they just gritted their teeth and voted for Clinton. 2020 came along and is the exact same thing. Look at the primary results before Joe Biden decided to jump in. Before the DNC had Biden jump into the race, look at the primary results. Sanders was winning the states. I'm not saying I like Sanders. I'm just following me along here. Sanders was winning. He clearly was saying something to the Democrats that they liked. Then Biden comes in, and all of a sudden it all changes. And maybe it's just because I'm cynical, I don't know, but I really question the results of the primaries after Biden jumps in. Because all of a sudden it's like nobody cares about Sanders anymore, which is really kind of strange when you look at how well he was doing in the primaries beforehand.
Right.
My point being that the Democrats, we'll put the Republicans to the side for me. The Democrats were screwed over twice, 2016 and 2020. And instead of going, hey, we're not going to stand for this, they're going along with it. And I think that's something that's where that message could come out.
Right.
Where they could go jump on the Green Party and vote, no, their candidate's not going to win. but they're going to do it because right now the bigger thing for them is to spite Trump as much as they can.
Right.
Republicans have the same problem. Fine, Trump does not speak to the conservative base. So why are they still voting for him? Why not find somebody who does speak to the conservative base, to that more small government, what used to be the Republican tenets? Why not go and vote for that? Libertarian, I understand, is a little bit harder for conservatives, real right-wing conservatives, because the social issues within libertarianism, but still.
Right.
Even if it's not them, go vote for somebody else. The other thing is, we get really hung up on the presidency. Congress's job is to keep the presidency in check.
Right.
So don't forget that it's not just the president you're voting for. You're also voting for congressmen, you're voting for senators, you're voting for state legislatures. That's another place where, okay, fine, you say you really, really, really don't want Biden to win, so you're going to go vote for Trump, or you really don't want Trump to win, so you're going to vote for Biden. Okay, well, then at least look at your other races.
Yeah. I think that if 2020 has taught us anything, well, it's taught us a few things. One, you need a gun and a garden. It's taught us that the state politics are probably even more important than federal politics, and it should be. That's the way. That was the way that our nation was intended. And we see those places that have been worse to live in for the last 6 months. They tend to have something in common. I'm not going to give you your results, dear viewer, but I will lead you to them.
Interestingly enough, what you just said, I will say this about when it has to do with conservatives and libertarianism. And it's the part you just talked about, the states. 10th Amendment leaves everything not in the Constitution to the states. That's what libertarians stand for. I will say that much. That while I disagree with some of their social stances, most of their social stances come with, we really don't, we agree with this or don't agree with this, but at the same time we believe that's a state issue to deal with.
Right, absolutely.
So if you're a state, and that's one of those areas where if you were to vote for, and I'm giving hypotheticals here to kind of demonstrate how this should be done. Let's say you decide, I'm going to vote libertarian because of the small federal government, power to the states. But when it comes to my state elections, I'm voting straight red because I don't want those social issues that libertarians like. I don't want that coming to my state. So I'm going to go ahead and execute that ability to let my state go full red. But I've got somebody in the federal government who is against federalism.
Right.
So,
right.
Just kind of a thought.
Yeah, and that's like one of my hot button issues personally is right to life.
Right.
Pro-life, whatever you want to call it, pro-birth, I guess. You can call me a birther, right. I suppose. Anyway, no, that meant something different, didn't it? Anyway, and the Libertarian Party, their stance is the government doesn't have any business having a stance on this. And I feel like that's really weak, but...
Yeah. But at the federal level, they believe that that's a state issue.
Right.
So there are some libertarians who, for instance, want Roe v. Wade overturned. And if they're at the state level, they might vote to legalize it, whereas they'd be perfectly fine with Indiana banning it.
Right.
So there is that kind of give and take there.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not telling you to go vote libertarian. I'm giving that as an example.
Right. So, Warsaw Patriot, you brought up some really great points, and we just hadn't had a chance to get to that yet. That we need to hold people accountable to their oaths. Absolutely. Once upon a time, violating the Constitution was treason. And the penalty for treason was death. I've said that before. And I think if we took things like that a little bit more seriously, maybe we'd have politicians a little less interested in lobby money and a little more interested in where their head was in relation to their neck. Anyway, so the Constitution is based on honor. I'd say there's some... Technically, it's based on law, but when you dig down to the core of it, yeah, there is an honor. There was a justice that was intrinsic to it, and we've lost that. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, there is to some degree some honor because it's law, but they all have to actually abide by the law.
Yeah.
which, we can see between the presidency, between the executive office, the legislative office, and the judicial, they've all violated that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then we've got a judicial branch who's, taking the position that they're going to choose not to choose. Well, if I've learned anything from classic rock, it's that you can choose not to choose, but you still have made a choice.
Well, and they can make, and they've made errors before. There have been several judicial cases which are just blatant violations of the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And that's not even getting into the legislating from the branch. But anyway.
So, and then Hunts for Life chimed in, it's we the people. And that's just such a perfect dovetail into what Warsaw was saying. Because, again, it's supposed to be this awesome experiment in self-governance, but not self-governance like total anarchy, i.e. pure democracy, not self-governance like communism, where everybody's supposed to be equal, though we are all equal in that we were created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But that we all have an equal opportunity. And I realize that that's kind of the core of a lot of what's been happening for the last 90 days, is that there is a group of people who feel completely disenfranchised and feel that they don't have an equal access to that opportunity. And I am legitimately not in a position to speak to that.
Well, I will. I'll speak to the point that while I may not agree with all of their points and all of their demands, I do believe they have the right to go out there and voice them.
Oh, absolutely. I will speak to that.
Yeah. They absolutely have the idea that they can go out there and voice them, and we should be supportive of that aspect of it.
Absolutely. But as soon as you start committing acts of terrorism, you've...
right, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just going out there and voicing their concerns and voicing their opinions and stuff like that.
So...
And even if the organization's founded by Marxists, the Constitution doesn't say, except for Marxism. The First Amendment doesn't say right to free speech unless you are a Marxist.
Now,
so
I did see something, and I didn't research it further, and this is something you've always been a lot better versed in from a baseline. But evidently there are laws on the books that basically say that communists they forfeit their rights under their civil rights by espousing communism, or
there was some during the era of McCarthy.
Yeah. And right, wrong, or otherwise, if that's still on the books, but
and no, Marxism can't be banned, it can't be banned, not without a constitutional amendment.
Well, that's a good point, though. If certain guns can be banned, once again, where we start playing fast and loose on, the founders couldn't have envisioned. So back in the 1800s, 1700s. There we go. It's late. I don't know where my brain is. Back in the 1700s, all they knew was monarchies and republics and democracies. They couldn't have envisioned communism, and so that more modern form of government can't be protected by the Constitution. And
here's that law you were talking about, by the way, the Communist Control Act of 1954.
Okay.
Strangely enough, it was a bunch of liberals that supported it.
But is that because the definition of liberal and conservative has flip-flopped several times through the years.
That was after that point, because a lot of that happened in the 30s, I believe, that flip-flopping, but it's more liberal in the classical liberal sense, probably.
Gotcha.
Like what libertarians are, classical liberal kind of idea. But yeah, now that was struck down in the 70s.
So, and Brastard, to your previous comment about, I have said all along that I would personally still disagree with using terrorist tactics to try to make your point. But it would have made more sense if these rioters had targeted city buildings, state government buildings, only police precincts. I mean, that's who their beef, according to what they're saying, that's who their beef is against. So it would have made sense for them to target those buildings. And yet, now there were situations, absolutely, where police precincts were burned down and stuff. Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago had to get extra armed security. Once again, good for me, but not for thee. Right back to the topic of tonight, the hypocrisy that we're seeing. But, yeah. So, yeah, and Hunts, that has been my experience. And I will say, the social justice warriors, they're really big on experiential truth. I feel dirty just saying that, because I believe that there is a standard of truth. Because,
well, exactly, yeah. They go off of what is truth to them instead of a concrete, which the problem is it's not how it works.
Right. Because to quote Lecrae, if what's true for me is true for me and what's true for you is true for you, what happens when my truth says your truth is a lie? Obviously, though, when you extrapolate that in the eyes of the social justice warrior, that makes my truth a lie because my truth infringed on somebody else's truth. But then they just tried to proclaim...
It's really a lot of mental gymnastics.
I'm having an aneurysm. Anyway, yes, I actually have a friend who, believe it or not, I have a friend who lives in Atlanta, and his family were immigrants from, I believe, Vietnam. There's a chance it was Korea, but I'm pretty sure it was Vietnam. I found out recently, as a matter of fact, he actually grew up poorer than poor in Indiana, living on assistance, embarrassed to bring friends home because they lived in a hovel. And now he easily clears 6 figures a year, lives in Atlanta, has all sorts of goodies and toys, and good for him, living the American dream. So his experience, his experiential truth, as you will, as not just a non-Caucasian, but an actual foreigner with an adopted home country, his experience has been that opportunity is out there. So, poor conservative, how you doing, man? So, I guess by way of application, I'm going to quote the Bible again and say, before you start trying to look at the sawdust in your friend's eye, make sure you don't have a log in your own. Okay, I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing. But, yeah. And once again, it's something that we all have a penchant towards because we all want to be right. How many of the what I think it was Doomers was the last moniker I heard, or the Boog Boys or whatever, who were talking about how stand up against tyranny and take back our, all that, and I don't necessarily think that they were fully wrong in their concept, but then turned around and cheered when feds and or Blackwater operatives were going out and snatching potentially protesters, potentially rioters, potentially ordinary citizens who just happen to be in a city that's, turned into hell on earth temporarily.
Yeah.
So the thing is that
they claimed to be against tyrannical government. The claim was, we'll stand against the government if it ever violates the Constitution, if it, you know, and then when they actually, that happened, and, you know, things such as being federal troops going in illegally into areas, they cheered it.
Yeah.
When police were shooting bullets indiscriminately into crowds, they were cheering it. Yeah.
But right now, they're going to turn around, and when dudes dressed in body armor are beating the snot out of soy boy looking protesters, and then those guys find themselves arrested. Now, I will say, if you're not going to arrest the people literally burning down the city, don't arrest the people trying to... Yeah, that's, once again, there are people in power that I'm convinced are absolutely doing everything they can to orchestrate this situation of the left and the right trying to eat each other.
Right.
And Warsaw, absolutely. There are some fantastic people who have immigrated and now serve in our military. Rob Ski. Whether you agree with what he does on the AK Operator Union, whether you think that he's an authority on Eastern European based and patterned weapons or not, I absolutely applaud the fact that he has adopted a country and believes in it so much that he's serving in our military. Although some would call that brainwashing. I don't know. At the end of the night, once again, I am not promising anybody any answers on any of these live streams. I want to give you guys some food for thought. Kind of help you guys keep that 3 pounds of bacon between your ears working. And oh yeah, Warsaw. It's the comment section on YouTube. you just can't. You can't. And yeah, I know you've had people in your comment section eating you too. So anyway, yeah. So what do you guys think? Are you brave enough to share someplace where you found hypocrisy in your life? Heck, I don't know. So once again, sometimes what looks like hypocrisy really, I don't have a good example, but I know that just within the last few weeks, I've had situations where I looked at something and I was like, man, am I being a hypocrite? And then, well, I've got one, and I've explained this one before. As much as Elias and I have criticized certain law enforcement tactics, certain law enforcement agencies, I still continue to wear my Back the Blue bracelet. I got called out on it within the last 4 to 6 weeks in a comment on one of my older videos for sitting in front of the Gadsden flag wearing a Back the Blue bracelet. And maybe you are watching this right now and think, yeah, that's pretty stupid and hypocritical, Blair. But my experience with my local law enforcement is in fact that they are guys and gals who believe in what the country is founded on. But there are going to be elements who think that the rules don't apply to them, and we're always going to need designated individuals to help keep the peace and enforce the laws the society has agreed upon. It's wishful thinking. It's the same kind of wishful thinking that keeps thinking that communism will work this time. But as George Orwell stated so eloquently, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. So, how many days do you... What? Alright, poor conservative, I'm not sure. Did I miss something? That? How many days do I have... What? Left on the giveaway? We've got 1 week left to sign up for the 500 subscriber giveaway. Or how many days do I have left on this earth? I'm not sure. I do firmly believe that he who knows the number of hairs on my head also knows the number of days that I have on this earth, and I will be called hence, not one moment before or after has been ordained. But that's a completely different topic. So I'm interested to see what that is.
Which one he's talking about?
Oh, right. Right. Well, hey, look at this. I've got a completely another scene that is completely messed up. So we will just do some more resizing. Thank you, OBS. Free software is great all the time.
Well, to be fair, there's a lot of paid for software that's not that great either.
That's not just Whistle and Dixie. I've got to say, OBS Studio is worth every penny that I paid for it.
See, there you go. At least you didn't pay for it. It's crap.
I wouldn't call it.
It was crap for free.
That's true. I do that every day.
Well, that's... Yeah,
anyway.
Dangerous territory there.
Speaking of dangerous territory, it is not dangerous at all to smash that thumbs up button if you haven't done that. If you're joining us tonight and you're not subscribed, I'd appreciate a subscription to the channel, and go ahead and ring that notification bell so that you see when I upload new content. I promise that's a thing that I do on occasion, and we've got the mystery Amazon package is one of those. Actually, I have a video recorded that I still have to get out to the range and do a second ending to, because I've got some more testing to do. But I will say I hinted at that I needed to reach out to a vendor and see if their customer support was going to take care of me. And actually, at this point, because I'm not throwing them under the bus, SB Tactical's customer support is fantastic to work with. But no spoilers on the rest of that video. So anyway, Armed Ape in the house. Tree hypocrisy if it's a deadly sin. Yes, we're all hypocrites and one. There's a lot of truth to that, Armed Ape. It's a world of gray, not black and white. It'd be a lot easier if it was in black and white. But I think that we still need to be careful with the egregious hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Poor conservative lives in a neighborhood of 7 cops working in the same building with local FBI. Don't have much problem with Leos personally. Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's one of those places where maybe that whole quote-unquote experiential truth, you know, we've seen local governments. What was it, Athens, Tennessee, where they had to do some extreme stuff with their local government, local law enforcement. I'm not saying
you get some that are good, you get some that are bad. Like we have said before, it's not necessarily the individuals that are the problem. It's the system. And mostly, it starts at the federal government level and then with the state government, and then some of the cities have adopted a more of a paramilitary aspect of their police department, but it's rarely individual cops necessarily, and it depends a lot on your local department, especially smaller towns usually do a little bit better.
Yeah, Warsaw, that's a good point. As it starts getting colder and stuff is driven indoors and condensed, and boy, let me really be unpopular here. I can see there being some sense with larger cities being stricter with gosh, you just can't jam thousands of people into a subway and expect diseases to not spread. There's no nice way to say that. The problem I have is even whole states. You can't govern a whole state by what's occurring just in the biggest cities.
One city.
Yeah.
I mean, New York City is a lot different than upstate New York.
Oh, absolutely. So, Yeah. The thing is that I'm not saying if we want to go back 7 days, the results of the election may absolutely kick off a timeline that none of us like at all. But
Yeah.
win, lose, or draw after the election, I was going to say, yeah, I've already just changed my mind on what I was going to say, because what I was going to say is that the impetus for weaponizing the fear will be gone. But that's not entirely true, because the organization most responsible for weaponizing the fear is the mainstream media. And once again, the mainstream media makes money by selling advertisements. Advertisers only spend that money if eyeballs are going to hit the advertising. And so the way to drive the eyeballs to the advertising is by selling outrage, by selling fear.
Honestly, it's a win-win situation for them. So
yeah. So anyway,
we're the losers in this game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once again, I am not saying that I am at risk for self-harm, but I certainly would like off of this ride. Anyway, so guys, it is 10 o'clock, and so I think we start working towards wrapping it up. Armed Ape, that was a great counterpoint. Yes, we are all hypocrites to some degree or another. I have a friend who for years has said, show me a man who is never a hypocrite, and I'm going to go ahead and nail him to a cross myself, because there's only ever been one who wasn't. Anyway, but I do appreciate you guys coming and spending an hour or so with us hanging out on hardcore difficulty. Yes, this somebody definitely turned up the difficulty in 2020, and I saw somebody share a meme today that's showing 2021 as a bigger wave than 2020. I was like, do not wish that on us. But if you guys haven't taken the opportunity to sign up for the 500 subscriber giveaway, that link is in the description. And like I said, at the start of the stream, we didn't even have 15 people signed up. So there are people watching this who haven't signed up for the giveaway. I got a couple of foam dart guns to give away this time, and a couple of t-shirts. So it'll be luck of the draw. You'll either get a decent Christmas present or, some cool threads. Or maybe I don't know. You do you. Anyway, so once again, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that, and feel free, go in and jump in the comments. Thumbs ups, thumbs downs, and just interact with the channel. That helps excessively, as well as sharing the videos. You guys have helped me out amazingly. I'm watching the new subscribers, and I know that I'm getting those because you guys are sharing the videos, and that's awesome. If you would like to help the channel, additionally, want to help out financially a little bit, you can head over to the merchandise store, link on screen, or you can click it down in the description. Grab yourself some t-shirts or coffee cups or stickers, and the channel does get a few dollars from each purchase. If you're in a position to help more directly, you can do that either over at Patreon or at Subscribestar. And aside from the platform fees, all of that money does come to the channel, and I put it back into the channel, whether it's ammo when you can find it, or accessories, the things that you guys are asking me to test. That's what I use that for. If you're not following Tactical Review over on social media, you can do that on Facebook and Instagram with the username Tactical Review 2019, at least until such time as I get zucked. And of course, go and follow Elias. Those links are down in the description tonight. I finally was a more gracious host and gave Elias the credit he so rightfully deserves. Elias, what do you have to add today?
You're right. I do deserve a lot of credit. No,
Absolutely. You bring
not really.
you bring the
Not
intelligence
really.
to the discussion, and the looks.
If I actually do some episodes, then. Speaking of which, I actually do have an episode that is recorded and is just cleaning up the audio, and maybe tomorrow or the day after I can actually publish it.
Fantastic. Warsaw, I just saw your question. The optic on my AK is that Ronin P10. So if you go back through my previous videos, you can see the video I've done on that. It is still holding 0. Seems to be a fantastic sub $100 optic. Once again, though, if you need a go-to-work optic, I would spend a little bit more money. But you know, you know your own budget. I have to say that I've been very impressed with it for something like an $85 optic. If you're looking for something a little bit more serious on the AKV, I'm running a Holosun 503C. Yes, it is also Chinesium. Been very happy with that, and it has the circle dot reticle. I'm thinking about trying to grab a Swamp Fox blade to try on something. It is their 1x Prism optic. The reason I'm doing that instead of their Liberator red dot is twofold. One, the blade has their circle dot style reticle. If you want to see what that looks like, you can go and look at the Swamp Fox versus Adable versus Strike Eagle discussion that I had. And the blade has Shake to Wake, where the Liberator Gen 1 does not. Rumor mill is that may be coming in Gen 2, but the Gen 2 release dates haven't been announced. So, and right now, Swamp Fox is just struggling to keep up with current demand, as everybody's looking for firearms and optics to put on them. So, and yes, I want a TWS Gen 3 rail for that AK. Sadly, the $200 for that haven't been forthcoming, and I will definitely also get a video up on that once I get that. Not the first, but it's a good looking rail if you're looking for a rail top cover. So, you know, if we do a Colorado bake sale, we can get you some more brownies. And wait, no, hang on. Yeah. All right. I think.
On that note.
On that note, boy, I don't know where to go with that. Guys, once again, thanks for joining us this evening. And Elias, unless you've got something else?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, fellas, ladies, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. And until next time, shoot straight, stay safe.